All right, today we're going to talk about a really powerful skill for when you feel totally stuck in a difficult emotion. When your feelings are pulling you in a direction you just don't want to go. Well, there's a tool that can help you change course. It's called opposite action. Have you ever been there, just completely drowning in anxiety or sadness or anger, and you get this massive urge to do something, to run away, to lash out, to just curl up and disappear? Even though some part of you knows it's not going to help in the long run. It's a super common feeling, and we're about to break down a really practical way to handle it. So here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll talk about managing these unwanted emotions. Then the crucial first step, checking the facts. We'll look at what to do when feelings don't fit, which, spoiler alert, is where opposite action comes in, and also what to do when they do fit. And finally, we'll see how this all comes together to build your emotional toolkit. Okay, so let's dive right into the core problem here, the emotional dilemma. You feel something really strong, and that feeling comes with this powerful urge to act. But what do you do when that urge is, well, unhelpful, or maybe even destructive? How do you actually change course? It turns out there are basically three main skills for changing these unwanted emotional responses. First up, you can check the facts. You'd be surprised how often just getting clear on the situation helps. Second, there's problem solving. And third, the one we're really focusing on today, opposite action. But here's the thing. Before you can pick which tool to use, you have to start at this one super critical place. It's like a fork in the road, and the first step is always the same. You have to check the facts. And this right here, this is the big question you have to ask yourself. Is what I'm feeling, and just as importantly, how strongly I'm feeling it, does it actually match the objective facts of what's happening? Not what I think is happening, not my fears about what might happen, but the cold, hard facts of right now. So this leads us to a really key idea, a justified emotion. And let's be super clear here. This has nothing to do with being right or wrong or judging yourself. A justified emotion is simply one that fits the reality of the situation. It's an appropriate response to what's actually going on. Okay, this example with the snake, it is perfect for showing the difference between an emotion being understandable versus being justified. Look, it is totally understandable to be afraid if you think there's a snake in your office. Your fear makes perfect sense based on your belief. But that fear is only justified if there is actually a poisonous snake hissing in there. See the difference? One's based on a thought, the other's based on a fact. And that distinction, well, it's everything. So, what happens when we check the facts and realize our emotion is understandable, but not actually justified? This is what takes us down the first path at that fork in the road, the path that leads straight to opposite action. And the rule here is actually pretty straightforward. If your emotion, or how intense it is, just doesn't line up with the facts, the best skill to pull out of your toolkit is opposite action. You can think of it as your go-to move for when your emotional system is kind of sending you a false alarm. All right, so we get when to use it, but what does it actually look like? How in the world do you do it? Let's get practical and break it down step by step. Okay, it's a four-step process. Step one, you've got to name the feeling and the urge that comes with it. What are you feeling and what does it make you want to do? Step two, check those facts. Is this feeling justified? Step three, and this is the core of it all, act opposite to your urge. And you have to do it all the way. And finally, step four, repeat. This isn't always a one-and-done magic trick. Sometimes you have to stick with it until that emotion starts to dial down. This table is a fantastic little cheat sheet. So, if you're feeling fear, what's the urge? To avoid, to run away. The opposite action? You approach. You do the thing you're scared of. Feeling anger, the urge is to attack, maybe to blame. The opposite is to gently step away or maybe even do something kind. And with sadness, the urge is to withdraw, to isolate yourself. The opposite action, you get active. You reach out to people. And listen, this next part is maybe the most important thing to remember about this whole skill. You have to commit, 100%. Halfway opposite action just doesn't cut it. It's not enough to, say, go to a party you're anxious about and then just stand in the corner on your phone. No, you have to go all the way. Change your posture, put a slight smile on your face, change what you're saying. You have to act top to bottom as if you actually felt the opposite. But hold on, what about that other path at the fork in the road? What if you check the facts and your emotion is a perfect fit for the situation? Well, then we need a totally different tool. And that brings us to problem solving. See, when an emotion is justified, the feeling isn't the problem, the situation is. The emotion is actually doing its job. It's signaling that something is wrong and needs to be addressed. So your goal isn't to change the feeling, it's to change the facts that are causing it. And that, my friends, is problem solving. So, what is problem solving, really? Well, it's pretty simple. First, you just acknowledge, okay, the facts here are the real issue. Then you start brainstorming possible solutions. And finally, you make a concrete plan to change the situation. So, for example, if you're super anxious about money, and the facts are that you can't pay your bills, that anxiety is justified. The solution isn't to act like you're rich, it's to problem solve by making a budget or looking for a new job. You fix the source of the problem. Okay, let's zoom out and pull all this together. When you understand this difference between when to use opposite action and when to use problem solving, you're basically upgrading your entire emotional toolkit. You're getting more sophisticated and can start choosing your actions with real intention. And I really want to drive this point home. The goal here is absolutely not to get rid of your emotions. All of your feelings are valid and understandable. They're just signals, right? They're giving you information about what's going on around you and inside of you. The real goal, the game changer, is learning to choose your actions wisely. It's about creating just a little bit of space between that feeling and your action. And in that space, you get to decide if your urge is actually going to be effective. These skills give you the power to make that choice instead of just running on emotional autopilot. So I'll leave you with a little challenge. Thinking about your own life right now. What's one small, and it can be tiny, opposite action you could take today, just to challenge an old habit or an emotion that isn't really fitting the facts? Give it some thought. Thanks for diving into this with me.